This is the electric meter. You don't have to really be able to read it because they do them electronic now. I think they do it through your telephone system. Power is below grade. This box should have been sealed on 3 sides to help prevent moisture from getting into the wall system. This is the main electric power supply conduit, and it's loose. There's nothing to keeping water from getting it. It used to be down here. We've had some movement. Nothing to keep water from getting into your electrical system. This is the grounding rod. Okay. It's supposed to be buried 8 feet, not 7 foot 6 inches, not 7 foot 3 inches. This is the grounding wire coming in from. This is the grounding wire coming in from what we're going to learn is the new panel box. We're not even grounded. Okay, we're grounded through the neutral, but we're not even grounded. That's our grounding wire right there. How about that? Isn't that interesting? I'll show you what I'm talking about. Allow me to demonstrate what I'm talking about. Oh, you're supposed to have 36 inches of clearance in front of that to work on it. So there's that. Even though you don't have to read it, you cannot work on this. That's probably why the guy gave up. Who knows, the guy. This is your ground wire. That green wire we're talking about is that one that goes outside. Right there. How about that? That's your main ground off your main bus. Check that out. This used to be the original panel. Now it's a junction box. And so some of those same rules apply. It's going to be a Sylvania Zensko, and good for them. They replaced it. Okay? Put another one. I don't know why they put one beside it. Why they decided that was easier. I don't know why they made this decision, but somebody did. But you shouldn't have more than 1/8 of an inch gap between your cabinets. Okay, because your top fits right on there. That compromises the fire blocking. Between your junction box cabinet from your original to this one, you have more than 1/8 of an inch. Alright? You're supposed to have 2 grounds within 8 feet. You don't even have 1 effective ground. You're still running off of your neutral to pull grounds. I was wondering how this was working. Because we get down here, okay, this is where our second ground is. Both of these boxes, brand new boxes installed for your second ground. Probably charged you for it. But we don't have our second grounds. They're just not there, huh? How about that? See this right here? This is called bundling. We have bundling here. We have bundling here. Since they replaced this box, what I'm not seeing is a green tag and bundling, okay? So, see all these little holes? You're not supposed to bring more than 2 cables into a cabinet at a time. Look at that. Look at that. All these provisions for all these wires that we're not using. Let's just go to the beer store, Philip. Just knock that big one out there, stuff it. Oh, Doug, you're the fastest guy in the shop. I know. And I like this as an example. These wires are not supposed to be touching the cabinet. I like this as an example because look at here. It's nailed in. You know, when you look at the instructions, the installation instructions, they show a hammer and a nail. It's pretty easy to understand. We come over here to this new improved cabinet. It's screwed in. Screws are faster. Screws are tighter. I get it. Doug and Philip get it. They're going to the beer store. Zip, zip. Let's go. Nails do not have the same shear strength. Screws do not have the same shear strength as nails. If this building was to experience a tornado, for example, and your garage gets blown up, you've already got a bad day. I get that. But if it was nailed into place instead of screwed into place, hopefully it'd stay, in place. Hopefully it would stay with a larger amount of stuff, so that, when the first responders come in, they don't have to step over this cabinet pops out like a pimple, and they don't have to step over Sparky to get in there. I get it. Bundling. Also, L1 and L2 is supposed to be covered with a little protective neoprene boots, jackets, if you will. It's okay that you're main neutral, but speaking of your main neutral, It's supposed to be wrapped 4 times with white tape so that you know that's the main neutral. That's not 4 times with white tape. I mean, it's supposed to be spread out farther than that. Well, come on along. You through yet, bud? No. I still got some things. You know what I'm not seeing here is a bonding location. A bonding location, which gets your ground, which makes your things, because your ground outside is not hooked up. Because you got to lose the ground. So we come over here to the water heater, and just about any electrician worth his salt is going to know to come in here and look, and there's your bonding right there on the cold water side of the water heater. And I use the water piping in the house as a bond, which also works your grounds, so your GFCI works. But you don't have grounding. The bonding location is supposed to be labeled in here so that any dummy can understand. Look, if you don't know that's the main neutral, then you don't belong in this cabinet. I get that, but they're supposed to be wrapped 4 times so that any dummy can understand. The bonding location is supposed to be labeled there so that any dummy can understand. And then this ground wire, which doesn't go in anywhere, you might be the ground. It's touching the cabinet cover. It's the only one in here. These are touching the cabinet cover. Probably wouldn't have mentioned this, except that is for you to complete the circuit. Coming along here, we have white hots. These are to our condensing units for HVAC, air conditioning condensing units. They have 220. That's a white hot. Okay, that's a white hot. That's okay. That's a white hot. It should be wrapped with black tape. If you don't know that it's hot, you don't belong in this cabinet. I get it. You should wrap it with black tape so that any idiot will understand. Black tape here, white tape here, bonding location there. I get it. Who needs that stuff? But there we go. And coming on along here, here's our this is our air conditioning. Now, according to the label here, it says this is for the large condensing unit. You know what? It's rated for 50 amps. That's perfect. And this says, if we can trust the labeling, if we can trust the guy that installed this, if we can trust that. This is 40 amps. That's for the smaller unit. However, the smaller unit is not as old as the bigger unit. And when they replace the smaller unit, it requires less power. It's more energy efficient. And it requires a 20 amp breaker. This is a 40 amp breaker. This is not going to trip in a timely manner. This gets hotter and hotter and hotter than the condensing unit was designed for. Will not trip until it gets hot enough for a 40 amp breaker, and you require a 20 amp breaker, and your system burns up because it did not trip. And it won't trip because it's 40 amps. It's 40 amps. Then we got another one in here. We got a clothes dryer somewhere. There we go. Well, clothes dryer right in here. 30 amp, that's about right. It's not GFCI protected. This is supposed to be GFCI protected, a 220 GFCI protected receptacle. So what do we learn? We learned that our grounding rod is not properly buried and our grounding rod is not hooked up. We learned that we do not have a secondary ground within 8 feet. We learned that we do not have 36 inches of surface access in front of the meter, and the meter should be sealed on 3 sides. We learned that the electric conduit to the meter has been disconnected. We learned that our second grounds are just dummies. We learned that we don't have black tape on our white hots, and we don't have enough white tape on our neutral. We learned that one of our condensing units is overfused. We learned that we do not have protective boots over here. That's what we learned. We learned that our bonding location is not labeled. We learned that we have bundling coming into the cabinets. Even the illustration in my inspection report is somewhat apologetic for it. It's very common. I got some bundling going on at my house. My house is not for sale. You shouldn't have to live like me. We learned that we got some wires touching the cabinet covers. And that's what we learned. I said white hots, not enough. Boots, okay. No GFCI for the clothes dryer, overfused. Bogus, second grounds. And then, this is called handwriting. See where it says UL and square D? That's printing. See where it says danger? That's printing. This is handwriting. The manufacturer and the code thinks that it should be printed. See where it says main principle? This cabinet came with a whole package of printed labels to be installed perfectly inside those places, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. That's handwriting. So that's what we learned.